So this is a quick look at 16 apparent anti-vegan arguments. I wanted to do something like this for a little while, so let's just crack on with it. To put it very bluntly, no, and we could really leave it at that. But to elaborate a little bit more, let's look at the definition of the word instinctual and instinctive, because you can have the benefit of the doubt of both. Semantics don't matter to me. The point is the same. It's a resounding no. If you were starving, hungry, and you were driving down the side of the road and you were miles away from the nearest service station or whatever it would be the equivalent in your country, and you saw some roadkill on the side of the road, let's say that an animal had been struck by a vehicle and was just lying there, would you pull over and tuck in as it was? Would you start devouring flesh and skin and fur just like a normal carnivore would? Because that's instinctual for them. When they're hungry, they hunt prey, or if they're a scavenger, they'll eat prey that as it is. They don't have to wait for someone to cook it, or they put it in a package for them, or to give them instructions on what to do or how to serve it or any of this stuff. They literally eat it as it is. That would be instinctual. We're not doing that, are we? When you're going down a supermarket and you're picking a pre-packaged meat product or whatever, and you're paying for it with your card or with your money, like that, there's nothing instinctive about that. That's not the same thing. The only way that you could say that that's a survival instinct is the sense that you don't want to starve. If I was being really pedantic, I could make the argument that because people have serious sexual urges, that it would be instinctual or instinctive to rape, but I'm not going to go down that route. So first things first, there's no real comparison to be made between our teeth and that of any natural carnivore. It's just silly to even try. Not just in terms of teeth, but in terms of jaw structure, shape, everything. It just doesn't work. The reason that essentially we've still got our canine teeth is just because they're leftovers from when they used to have a function. They still do have a function, which is why they're not classed as vestigial, but that function now is for things like biting apples, gripping hold of apples, like that sort of thing. It's not for tearing meat. You'd struggle to even bite a sandwich without your canine teeth. Like, they kind of like hold things in place, I guess, is probably an easier way of describing it. And it's nothing to do with size. If you take a hippopotamus, for example, they've got enormous teeth and they eat plants. So it's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with what something looks like. It's actually what its purpose is. And could our teeth rip open flesh of an animal that you had no tools, no anything, you literally just pulled, like that example I gave in the first question, you pulled over on the side of the road? Could your teeth that you've got now tear away the hair, the fur, the hide, the skin, the muscle? No, they couldn't. So end of. It's just a flat out no again. I mean, for example, take all of the what you know as the common carnivores of the world, your lions, your tigers, your sharks, your crocodiles. Why aren't they extremely intelligent beings? Why aren't they all at the top of the intelligence list of when it comes to animals? Why aren't they? Why don't you respect them and their superiority because they eat so much meat? Because you clearly don't, especially in the case of sharks or crocodiles, for example. Maybe more so lions and tigers, because you think they're a bit cooler. But there's dozens and dozens and dozens of carnivores that you show zero respect for, that eat more meat than you do. So if that's supposedly how evolution works, which it definitely isn't, then it's not working. There's a problem. But it's not even just that evolution doesn't say this. Science doesn't agree with you. Science actually says that eating meat is destroying our bodies, it's causing serious problems, and it's responsible for some of our serious problems. It's not in agreement with you, it's against you. It's just another silly straw man argument. There's lots of things that we no longer do that we used to do and did for a significant amount of time that we've now realised that we're either better than that, or we don't need to do it anymore, or it's just stupid or whatever. There's dozens and dozens of just, obvious things. We used to drown people because we thought they were witches. We used to put leeches on people because we thought it treated injuries and ailments. There are so many things we have learned from and improved from. That is life. Um, Once upon a time, science was just something that just wasn't allowed to even be considered, let alone be like a leading field. Religion just wouldn't have it, and books and texts, things about space, they were all just destroyed at one point. But on that note, just to quickly mention space, did you know that it's less than 100 years ago that we discovered that there was a universe, that Andromeda was discovered? That was 1925. That's not even 100 years ago. Whereas most people now would just say it's general knowledge that we're not the only universe and there are universes out there. Whereas less than 100 years ago, we didn't even know about one. That's the difference in science. That's how things move forward. That's how we learn and that's how we evolve. It's not a case of doing the same thing that we always did. The thing is, it's not even true. The further you go back in time, the less meat they actually ate. Well, yeah, you've got me there. I mean, that is true. Animals do eat other animals. That is something that happens in nature, sadly. But you don't. You're not a natural carnivore. We've already gone through the teeth. We've already gone through the fact that it's not instinctive. So I'm not sure what the comparison is here. There are lots and lots and lots of animals that don't eat other animals, don't you? Lots of animals that don't eat anything but plants. So why don't we ever talk about those? Why don't you ever make those comparisons? Why is it only the certain traits and certain behaviors that you want to compare and depict from other animals? For example, do you, when you meet a new person, do you go around and sniff their ass? I'm guessing not. Well, why not? Why is it, do we pick and choose these animal behaviors that apparently, we depict because we're animals too? It's always when it suits, isn't it? It's like it's pick and choosing all the time. You know, just absolute rubbish, not even worth giving any more time to. I don't want to do this anymore. So that's just not true. There are absolutely tons and tons and tons now of vegan athletes. The world's strongest man is vegan. There are, you know, hundreds and hundreds of examples of people that are absolutely smashing it in their specific fields that are vegan. So that's just rubbish. It's not even just about, the strength side of it or the stamina side of it or any of these things. You can tell when people are vegan, they look, fresh faced and youthful. I've had that compliment dozens of times in my own personal experience. My mental health has improved, my physical health has improved. I no longer ache, I'm no longer fatigued. Like, the benefits are endless. But not just that. I mean, when you look at some of the science and when you look at some of the studies that have been done, there is an absolute clear distinctive connection between consuming meat and things like heart disease or pulmonary heart disease or whatever. Like, they're linked. You can't deny these things. So I can't really see how that's an argument against veganism. Even if it was true, the things that you're eating are eating the same things that we're eating. So potentially it would be just as bad for you, but you're having twice as much of it. So even if it was an argument, which it's not, it wouldn't benefit you. I'm really not going to give this one too much time because it literally is the definition of the tu quoque fallacy. Even if that was the case, and please feel free to throw your arguments at me about it, you would be eating far more plants than us just because not only are you eating veg with your meat, but your meat eats more plants than any vegan ever will. So if there is an argument there to be made, look at yourselves before you address anyone else. So whilst this is probably my least favourite response to deal with, I mean, I don't enjoy any of them, but this one I think causes me the most offence because it's so disrespectful. Like just the concept of it in general. I mean, not only do people throw the word around as though it just is some get out of jail free card for everything, but the thing is, the only way that that word has any meaning, look at the definitions, the only way that that word has any real meaning or anything to it is when it's linked with other things. So when it's linked with mercy or compassion or you know, so for example, if an animal was suffering and you were nowhere near a vet's and you had nothing but a flick knife and you slit that animal's throat because it was the best thing for that animal, you could argue that that would be humanely killing the animal. You're putting it out of its misery, you're doing the best thing for it, there is mercy there. But when you're essentially slaughtering animals by the billions purely for greed, there is no argument to be made. There is no such thing as humane. It is literally defunct. It is a paradox. It is just a lie. And to repeat a quote I find myself saying all the time, they don't go in there with a smile and a consent form. It is not voluntary. It is against their will. Therefore, it could never be considered humane. It is murder by definition. That's it. Fact. End of.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god. Stop fucking lying. Always lying to me. You lying so much. You making it.
As this is just another really stupid argument, I'm only going to give it a small amount of time to. Even if that was true, which it most definitely isn't, absolute tripe, what sort of quality of life is that? So let's give you the benefit of the doubt quickly, and let's say that animals do need to breed. They have a necessity to. There's some sort of like, I don't know, maternal instinct in every animal that they have to have a baby, otherwise they haven't, like, I don't know, fulfilled themselves. What sort of life, like let's take a cow for example, what sort of life is it for the baby where the male gets dragged off and turned into veal, or the female gets dragged off and turned into mum for the next however many years and exploited to death? Or if you're a chicken, your baby gets put into the same industry as you, or if you're a sheep, it gets put into the same industry as you. Like, what sort of life is this? Even if you go to the extent of dog breeding and look at the places like puppy farms and puppy mills, is this a good existence? Is it? No. If that was some sort of, I don't know, biological trait that existed and actually something that we had to deal with, then we would be responsible for giving them a decent quality of life. That would be their 5 freedoms. So we don't, and that's rubbish. It again wouldn't help you. If true, would harm your argument, not help it. This is a very silly argument too, but newsflash, the world already is overpopulated with animals. You are literally slaughtering them by the billions. So the numbers are astronomical that are being murdered. So how many do you think are around at any point before that happens? Like, and that's not including the animals that you're not wearing or eating or exploiting. Like, yeah, the world is already overpopulated. It's overpopulated with people. Like this, there's no argument there. But to take this as face value, if we didn't eat animals, they would overpopulate the planet and starve to death. Not only is that not true, but why would any of you care? You don't care about them being murdered. You don't care about them being murdered just so that you can eat them or whatever else. So why would you care about them starving to death? It's just absolute rubbish. It doesn't deserve any more time than that. Not even going to argue with you. I ate it for many, 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 many years, regrettably, but I did. I'm not going to argue about the fact that it tastes good. I obviously don't feel the same way anymore, but The taste has never been the issue. I didn't stop eating meat because it didn't taste good. I stopped eating it because I gave a shit about the animals that the meat was coming from. So it's nothing to do with taste and everything to do with morals and ethics. So that's it. I don't eat anything that's got a face, and neither should you. I don't care what it tastes like. The taste doesn't play any part in this argument whatsoever. This is one of those arguments that I see brought up time and time again, and it really depends. Like, I mean, I think sometimes people don't realize what constitutes this vegan food. Like, a banana is vegan, an apple is vegan, lettuce is vegan. So you can go to somewhere like Aldi if you're in the UK and spend £20 on fruit and veg and fill your fridge or your wherever you keep it, your cupboard for a week easily. So I, I would disagree in that aspect. But obviously, if you're going to go and buy things that are branded, um, especially as it's like early stages for a lot of these companies, then yeah, I would agree that some of these things are, especially compared to meat or dairy products, they are expensive in that comparison. But that's just how it is. But in regards to all vegan food is expensive, then absolutely not. No. I would have to actually completely agree with this. Personally, I think it's almost impossible to be a perfect vegan and live as a normal member of society. Maybe if you did, the hypothetical question that gets thrown at us all the time, if you lived on a desert island, then yeah, I suppose it is possible. But in the modern day world, no, it's not, because even if literally your contributions towards animal abuse and animal cruelty are zero, unless you've got a vegan supermarket close by, which I know the vast majority of people haven't, you're going and shopping at somewhere that sells other products which contribute to industries that you're against. So there's so many different things if you wanted to get into the nitty gritty. But I would agree you can't be a perfect vegan. However, my argument to be would be that's not an excuse not to be one. Veganism is about literally doing the best you can, contributing the most that you can. So not being able to be 100% perfect is not an excuse not to try, full stop. Um, we're finally here, the worst argument ever against veganism. Because literally there are so many different things that I could go. I could take this as horrible as I wanted to. Is it a rapist's personal choice to rape someone? No, it shouldn't be. But potentially, how extreme do you want to go with personal choice? But as far as I'm concerned, personal choice is literally, it shouldn't infringe another being. It shouldn't infringe another being's liberties or freedoms or rights. So you can do what you like in theory, as long as it doesn't affect anything else. So if you want to sit in your house and get as drunk or as drugged up as you like, as long as you're not affecting anyone else, I don't see what the problem is with that personally. If it's you only harming yourself, like, that's you, that I would consider personal choice. But if you're doing that and you're eating other beings and you're playing your music really loud and everyone's pissed off and you get frustrated and you kick next door's dog, then that wouldn't be okay, would it? But it would still be all your personal choice. But next door wouldn't be very happy and they could call the police and there would be some potential consequences to your actions. So it's stupid. Not to mention all of these animals that you're eating out of personal choice. What about theirs? What, do you really think that they want to be your burger? Or you really think they want to do that? Of course not. So you are taking away their freedom. You are taking away their choice. It just makes no sense. It's completely hypocritical, and I just wish people would stop saying it. Full stop. No, not only is that absolutely not true in general, and quite often it is only one person or one voice that does make a difference. that when it comes to veganism, it's especially true because the difference that one person can make, just for example, just taking food in consideration and nothing else, by no longer consuming meat and dairy and eggs, there's so many lives over your lifetime. Let's say you're an 18-year-old person. Think of how many lives you're going to save by not consuming them anymore. Think of how much water you're going to save. Think of how much land that's not going to be destroyed. Think of how much methane's not going to get put into the atmosphere. All these different things, they mount up and they're huge. You can go on one of the websites like Vegan Calculator, I think it is, and literally type it in and you'll see it for yourself. The results are there. So no, I would completely disagree with that.